Hi kids, my name is Major Ian Billington and I've been in the Air Force for more than a decade. I've been flying the F-16 for about 5 years now. Alright, so one of the most intriguing questions is how do we go to the bathroom in the F-16? Well, what we have here is what we call a piddle pack. It's a very complicated scientific device that has some crystals in the bottom that have a chemical reaction to urine. So we have some simulated urine here. We're going to put the piddle pack, and we'll come back to that at the end of the question and answer session. So I'll just secure that right now. This is exactly how we do it in the air. Roll it down, have a little clamp here. We'll see what happens to this in a couple minutes.
You fly alone in the jet, and where was the farthest place that you flew?
So do I fly alone in the jet? Yes, I do. The F-16 is a single-seat fighter, so there's no room for anybody else when we're going to war. So the average sortie duration for a fighter pilot is about an hour and a half. However, I have flown to Korea, and from there I've flown back to South Carolina. I've flown from there to Alaska, and I've also flown from there to Singapore, which was my longest flight ever. More than 10 hours, and it took about 10 air-to-air refuelings to make that happen. So we fly in groups of about 4 to 6 on the wing of a big old fat tanker plane that gives us gas about every hour. When we landed in Singapore, the coolest thing was that it was the furthest south country in mainland Asia. In Singapore, their national language is English, even though they're 30% Indian, 30% Malaysian, and 30% Chinese. Weird, huh?
Have you experienced an important mission in the Air Force?
The F-16 flies important missions every day. Over the last decade in Afghanistan and Iraq, we've flown many missions to keep the guys on the ground safe. In addition, my squadron in South Carolina flew what's called Operation Noble Eagle, which protects the president when he's traveling across the country. So we fly Overwatch every time he leaves the White House.
What is the difference between a fighter pilot and a cracker pilot?
Alright, so what's the biggest difference between a commercial pilot and a fighter pilot? Well, a commercial pilot's not in the military, and he flies your family from, say, Florida to California, where a fighter pilot trains to and is ready to fight a war at a moment's notice, and we can shoot missiles and shoot guns.
What your uniform looks like?
So this is what my uniform looks like. It's a flight suit. It has the Air Education and Training Command patch, which is your MAGCOM. I've also been in the Air Combat Command and the Pacific Air Forces Command. This is my name tag. I go by Shout, that's my call sign. This is a Friday patch for the squadron I'm in, the top hats. That's Mr. Bones. And then also, that's our standard Friday patch as well, which shows Mr. Bones with the dice. It's kind of our squadron motto. This flight suit doesn't just look cool, it's flame retardant. So if there's any kind of a fire in the jet, it kind of protects you from the fire as much as it can. And last, the flight suit's very comfortable and you can actually wear it to bed if you want.
Is it hard doing your job? And is it more stuff than you do than fly a plane?
Yeah, it's very difficult doing my job. It takes a lot of training and a lot of expertise in order to do it well.
Do you train? And what kind of trainings do you do?
We train every day. That's our job, is to train to be ready to go to war at a moment's notice. The kind of training we do is pretty intense. We do air-to-air as well as air-to-ground training. So we practice fighting bad guys in the air and also on the ground. So in training, we shoot the gun, we shoot missiles, and we drop bombs, and we're not actually doing it, we're simulating it to make sure we're ready in case we have to go to war.
What do you have to be to join the F-16?
So to fly the F-16, you have to at least have graduated college. So usually that's about 22 or 23 years old. And then you go through pilot training, which takes a year. And then about another year of training until you become a full-out fighter pilot. So generally about 24 or 25 years old is the youngest you can be to fly a fighter jet. I graduated high school and then I went to the Air Force Academy. So 4 years later I graduated and I had a pilot slot. And I went to pilot training at Laughlin Air Force Base in Del Rio, Texas, which is way down southwest. And after that I got an F-16 slot.
Have you ever seen a blackbird?
Yeah, dude, so I've seen a Blackbird. The SR-71 was invented in the 1970s and it can go Mach 3, which is slightly faster than the F-16 that can go Mach .205. However, I've never seen it in the air because it's decommissioned now, but it's at many air museums if you want to check it out for yourself. So when I was flying from America to Korea to Alaska to Singapore, like I said, we had to refuel about 10 or 11 times each time. And to do that, we fly on the wing of a KC-135 or a KC-10, and they have a big boom that sticks out the back of the jet. So a big old plane has a boom that sticks out like this, and I take my F-16 and I fly right up towards it. So we move forward, and then I'll move the big probe out of the way, and we get forward enough that they can bring it back and put it inside our air refueling door, and they fill up our jet just like we were at a gas station. And again, it takes about 10 refuelings to make sure that we can make the trip from America all the way to Korea or all the way to Singapore. And it takes a lot of fine flying. You gotta be real fine-tuned, little movements to make sure that you're not too high or too low or too forward or too aft to get all the gas you need. So it's a pretty interesting process.
It's so bored when you're sitting in the plane all day long and doing nothing.
So do I get bored while flying the jet all day doing nothing? So my average sortie duration is about an hour and a half in the air, and I have about maybe 2 minutes to think about whatever I want. The rest of the time, it's all about the mission. It's very complicated, very intense, and I'm always thinking 2 steps ahead to stay ahead of the jet, and I'm always fighting someone or dropping a bomb here, shooting a gun there, and trying to keep our guys on the ground safe. So no, I'm never bored in the F-16. So I grew up being a football, baseball, and hockey fan from Detroit, but I do like soccer, especially during the World Cup, which is pretty sweet, go USA. And my favorite food is steak, medium rare.
Is a passion except for the military?
So I have many passions outside of flying the F-16. They include traveling and rock climbing, staying fit, and also hanging out with my family by the pool. Alright kids, I gotta get out of here, but before I do, I want to show you what happens when we go to the bathroom in the jet. If you remember, we poured a whole bunch of liquid into this piddle pack, and you can see here that it's now solid, solidified crystals, and it won't spill all over the place in case it opens. And again, we latch it closed, it can handle 9 Gs and supersonic flight, and it goes nowhere, and we throw it out in the garbage as soon as we land. Hope you guys enjoyed talking about being a fighter pilot, and I hope I see you guys in the air sometime.